Castro, back for chapter 14 of my book, Flowerantha. When we last left the kids, a battle was raging between the monster knights, and the Mermaid King was locked in a tank. How are Mash and Bushra going to get out of this? Let's find out. Your Majesty, I'm trying to help you. Bushra struggled. The king's eyes were yellow and serpentine like a monster knight's, instead of blue and clear like they normally were. Scorso drew his large head back, and the ruffled black feathers on his back settled down against his leathery hide. You can have your king back. All I want are the visitors. I know you are hiding them somewhere. We found them before with the help of your uncle. But you boys have gotten in the way, not any longer. My family is faithful to the kingdom. Bushra struggled against the merman's strong grasp. Baby soldier, there are ways of convincing everyone, even your uncle. I thought he would be more useful, but he was so weak even a russet took him out. I didn't know, Mash started, but Scorso cut him off with a roar that made Mash's teeth chatter. With a trembling voice, Mash asked, "What do you want with the visitors? I thought you liked the last one. And since when can monster knights talk?" Liked him? Scorso's voice rolled like powerful waves crashing against an ocean shore. Shrew tonight. As Scorso said his name, wads of spit flew from his mouth. Mash turned his face away. Shrew tonight was not a friend of the monster knights. He used us and tortured us when we did not obey. After he ran away, like a coward, I moved into the castle and had a monster knight on guard at all times in case a visitor arrived. I was certain that every passage to the Amaranth was in the castle, but I was wrong, and I am the only one who can talk. Shrew tonight taught me that, too. We all thought you wanted to take the power from the mer people, like Shrew tonight wanted. Scorso stomped a few steps in one direction, before stomping back in the other direction. His long body did not allow him to pace very far. Peace. I want peace for my race. Bushra writhed against the king's bulging arms. These visitors are not like the last. They are peaceful. Enough! Shrew tonight was Ned. They all start out that way, but then they change and crave power. I want them eliminated, and I want to do it myself. Addressing the king, he said, "Finish him off. Make it subtle." King Romano released one of Bushral's arms and instead reached for his throat. Bushral tried to pull his hand away, but the king was too strong. Mash darted away from Scorso and dove at the tank. He drove the blade of one of his knives into a crack in the tank. Bushral choked as Mash thrust the metal into the crack again and again. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he desperately tried to break the glass. "I wish for a diamond blade," said Mash. The blade of his knife transformed into a radiating prism of solid diamond. He drove the tip into the damaged part of the tank, and the crack spidered out around the four walls of the tank. Mash kicked the glass, and the tank shattered. Water rushed out, and King Romano fell to the ground and lost his grip on Bushra. Scorso roared and came at Mash with his massive teeth. The puddles that had formed on the ground rippled with every step. Against the dark mountain floor, the water made it look like a tar pit that would suck Mash down into it if he didn't do something. Mash wound up and threw the diamond knife directly at Scorso's heart. Scorso bellowed and crashed into a wall. From the source of Scorso's sharp movements, the knife came loose and flew in Mash's direction. The blade sliced through the flesh of Mash's leg, and Mash cried out in agony. Scorso took a few awkward steps and slammed against the cave wall. The soldiers, who had fallen quiet, dodged out of the way to make a path. The only sounds were the thundering stomps from the monster knight's enormous feet and his pained screams. Once outside, the monster knight flapped his giant wings and lifted off the mountainside, but the damage was done. He fell from the sky and crashed into the ground, making the earth shake and creating a crater around himself. The soldiers stared in disbelief. Gradually, they began to care for the wounded and deceased. As for the monster knights, they left the soldiers alone and flew out of the cave to their individual nesting areas. Without the brains and guidance of Scorso, the search for the visitors was of little interest to the beasts. After the battle had ended, Beverly and Maylin, who had stayed at the mouth of the cave, found Mash and Bushrell even more disheveled than they had been when they were freed by Olivia. Mash was lying down with one hand pressed against the gash in his thigh and one arm over his forehead. Bushrell sat with his back to Mash and rubbed his throat where the merman had been holding him. King Mermano lay motionless nearby amid a pile of broken glass and a puddle of water. Olivia ran to the king. "Your Majesty!" She put her head near his chest. "He is still breathing. He was under some sort of spell when he hurt Bushrell. I'm going to carry him down to the lake." The panicked expressions of the two girls were the only response to her statement. "Mash is weak, but he will make it." Olivia's years of experience in battle left her with little sympathy for non-fatal wounds. Handing Beverly a bottle, she said, "Here, give him this. It's for the pain." Beverly took it from her. Lifting the king, who was limp in her arms, Olivia ran back toward the front of the cave. Beverly went to Mash's side. She held the bottle at arm's length. She removed the cork, took a sniff, and turned her head away. "What is this?" She held up Mash's head and tipped the bottle over his lips. Mash drank, but then coughed as the liquid burned his throat. Bushrell took the bottle and poured a generous amount on the wound, which made Mash flinch and moan. Beverly winced, and Mash snatched her hand. Bushrell knelt at Mash's other side, and Maylin stood behind Bushrell with her hands clasped in front of her chest. Bushrell ripped off the longer sleeve of his shirt and handed it to Beverly. "This is for the bleeding. Apply pressure while I wrap his leg." He ripped off a strip from the bottom of his shirt. Mash shifted. "Do not move. This is going to hurt." Beverly pressed her hand with the wad of fabric into Mash's leg. "It does not look very deep." Bushrell wrapped the strips of fabric around the leg and tied them. "Let him rest here for a little while until the bleeding stops. Then we will make our journey back to the castle." Perspiration formed on Mash's forehead, so Beverly ripped off a few leaves from her dress and wiped them across her face. "I taste metal," whispered Mash. His lips were red with blood. "We will get some water and some food," said Bushrell. Mash turned his head from Beverly to Bushrell. "I'm sorry. I didn't know he was your uncle," he croaked. "I know. I understand that now. Truthfully, I did not know my uncle. He was estranged from the family, and I would not be surprised if he was working with the Monster Knights. But he was my father's only brother. He was all that is left of my father's blood. Besides you," said Mash. "Besides me." Bushrell sniffed and wiped his nose with the back of his hand. "I taught you well, Russet. You freed the king. You are a hero now." "That was some impressive knife slinging until you sliced your own leg open." Mash tried to laugh, but held on to himself in pain. He moved his hand away from his dirt and blood-streaked face and closed his eyes in pain from the effort of laughing. Beverly ran a finger across his forehead to move his hair to one side, and he relaxed his face. "You and Bushrell are so brave." He opened his eyes. "We need to get you home." Beverly patted his hand. "Take your time, Mash. I want you to feel better first." So the battle's over, but the girls still aren't home. Let's see if we can get them there in chapter 15. Thanks for watching.